The Syrian uprising, dormant since ISIS's defeat in 2019, resurfaced in 2024 with a major offensive by opposition groups including Tahrir al-Sham and Turkish-backed factions against pro-government forces in northwestern Syria. Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Mark Lynn. What's behind the Aleppo rising in Syria? Has Assad got the backing to get this under control? Let's connect the dots.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
This offensive, starting on November 27, 2024, aimed to retaliate against increased shelling of civilians in western Aleppo. The opposition captured most of Aleppo, leading to renewed violence. Ibrahim Hamidi, a research fellow at the University of St. Andrews, attributes this to Hezbollah and Iran's recent defeats in Lebanon and Syria, which the armed group saw as an opportunity to gain ground.
I think they are, in a way, inspired by Taliban experience in Afghanistan. So they are trying to copy that model. So they are trying to control the city, and they are trying to let the locals to control the city.
The situation in Aleppo is tense. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's surprise offensive captured much of Aleppo, leading to counter-strikes by the Syrian Army and the Russian air forces, killing over 300 insurgents. This violence has displaced thousands and caused many civilian casualties. The conflict involves international players like Russia, Iran, and the United States, with significant implications for regional power dynamics. Turkey supports the Free Syrian Army and other groups, providing training, weapons, and safe zones. Turkey has also launched military operations in northern Syria and hosts millions of Syrian refugees. Additionally, it engages diplomatically with Russia and Iran to seek a political solution.
Between Israel and Iran, now the whole Iranian militias deployed in the western part of Aleppo been weakened, and the armed groups, the Islamists backed by Turkey, seized this opportunity to make some gains on the ground. And I think they were surprised how fast they were able to advance inside Aleppo.
Takbir! Takbir!
Putin and Assad have a strategic alliance. Since 2015, Russia's military support has helped Assad regain control over Syria. They met in July of 2024 to discuss regional issues. Russia has blocked UN sanctions against Assad and provided economic and humanitarian aid. It has also formed alliances with Iran to coordinate military and political strategies. Yet this is seen as his biggest challenge, considering the preoccupation of his alliance partners.
It's one of the biggest challenges that Bashar al-Assad has ever had to face during his time as Syrian leader since 2000 and since the civil war began in 2011. It's very similar to the situation that he found himself in when the civil war first began. The rebels back then enjoyed significant success. They captured large parts of the country, specifically in the north and the east. Aleppo is actually in the north of the country. And what turned the tide for him back then was the support of Russia, primarily the Russian Air Force.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met Syrian President Bashar al-Assad on December 1 in Damascus. Assad vowed to crush the insurgents in Aleppo as Russian and Syrian jets struck Idlib in northern Syria. Araghchi described the situation as difficult but expressed confidence that Assad's government would overcome the rebels as it has done in the past. Following the meeting, Iranian-backed militia entered Syria overnight from Iraq and headed to northern Syria to beef up beleaguered Syrian army forces. Dozens of Iran-aligned Iraqi Hasht al-Shahbi fighters from Iraq also crossed into Syria through a military route near Al-Bukamal crossing. Days earlier, opposition leaders who had fled Aleppo in 2016 also returned with much jubilation.
I am the son of Aleppo and was displaced from it 8 years ago in 2016. Thank God we just returned. It is an indescribable feeling to return to your country, your land, the place you were brought up in.
The current Syrian uprising is driven by opposition groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, not ISIS. While ISIS still poses a threat, it hasn't regained territorial control. Relations between opposition groups and ISIS are complex, involving both clashes and cooperation at times. In early 2014, serious clashes erupted between opposition groups and ISIS in northern Syria. There have been instances where factions of ISIS cooperated with groups like the Al-Nusra Front to combat common enemies. The US maintains troops in northeastern Syria, primarily in Al-Hasakah and near the Al-Tanf garrison, in areas controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces. These bases support local forces, they prevent ISIS resurgence and counter Iran and Russia. The US communicates with regional partners and humanitarian groups, emphasizing the need to address civilian safety. Supporting local ceasefires and maintaining a military presence ensures the defeat of ISIS. Along with allies like France, Germany, and the UK, the United States urges de-escalation and a Syrian-led political solution in line with the UNSCR 2254. The US promotes accountability for human rights abuses and also upholding international law. US actions align closely with Israeli interests, and Netanyahu is also monitoring the situation.
We are constantly watching events in Syria. We are determined to defend the vital interests of Israel and to maintain the achievements of war.
The recent Aleppo offensive, it poses a major challenge for President-elect Donald Trump. His administration must navigate regional alliances, humanitarian crises, and the ongoing threat of ISIS. Now, Trump often claimed credit for defeating ISIS, which might justify the US's continued involvement in Syria.
I am honored to be here in support of Donald J. Trump. He is being victimized, but we as a country are being victimized even more by the unconstitutional weaponization of justice and the two-tier system of justice that is on full display.
The man you see on your screen is Trump loyalist Kash Patel. US President-elect Donald Trump has announced plans to make Kash Patel the next director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI. In his social media platform Truth Social, Trump wrote, and I quote, "Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people." Trump's announcement has set the stage for a fresh round of turbulence at the law enforcement agency. So who is Kash Patel? Kashyap Pramod Patel, or Kash Patel, was born in New York City to Indian immigrant parents from Gujarat. He studied criminal justice at Richmond University and later graduated from Pace University School of Law. Patel also holds a certificate in international law from the University College London. He started his career as a public defender in Florida and later became a federal prosecutor in the National Security Division of the Department of Justice. There he oversaw the prosecution of terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Patel also worked closely with the Joint Special Operations Command to take down high-value terrorism targets. During Trump's first term, Patel held several high-level positions, including Chief of Staff to the US Secretary of Defense. Kash Patel's nomination as FBI Director means Christopher Wray, the current director who was appointed by Trump in 2017, would have to leave his position 3 years early. Wray's 10-year term is not set to end until 2027. So for Patel to take over, Wray would either need to step down voluntarily or be removed by Trump. Listen to what Wray had said after he was nominated for the FBI director's post in 2017 by the then President Donald Trump.
I am given the honor of leading this agency. I will never allow the FBI's work to be driven by anything other than the facts, the law, and the impartial pursuit of justice, period, Full stop. My loyalty is to the Constitution and to the rule of law.
What went wrong between Trump and the FBI Director Christopher Wray? The answer lies in the FBI's investigations. Under Wray's leadership, the FBI investigated Trump himself, including a search of his Mar-a-Lago estate in 2022 for secret documents he wasn't supposed to have. Trump was not happy with the FBI's investigations, especially the one into the January 6, 2021 US Capitol riot, which involved hundreds of his supporters.
I was appalled, like you, at the violence and destruction that we saw that day. I was appalled that you, our country's elected leaders, were victimized right here in these very halls. That attack, that siege, was criminal behavior, plain and simple, and it's behavior that we, the FBI, view as domestic terrorism.
FBI directors serve 10-year terms to keep them independent from politics. This way, they can do their job without worrying about pleasing the president or other politicians. Usually, presidents keep the existing FBI director when they take office. For example, President Joe Biden kept Christopher Wray as the FBI director. However, presidents can choose to appoint someone new. In fact, only 2 FBI directors have been fired before completing their terms. William Sessions was fired by Bill Clinton in 1993, and James Comey was fired by Trump in 2017. Trump fired Comey in 2017, and Christopher Wray took over as the FBI director then. But what led to Comey's firing? Well, Trump was unhappy with the FBI's investigations into his connections to Russia. This probe was a major point of contention between Trump and Comey. However, Patel's appointment as FBI chief would not be a cakewalk. First, he has to be confirmed by the Senate. Just because Republicans control the Senate doesn't mean his confirmation is a done deal. Patel will likely face some tough questions during his confirmation hearings, especially since he has talked about getting rid of government officials whom he thinks are against Trump. Patel even said he would shut down the FBI's Pennsylvania Avenue headquarters and send employees across the country to chase down criminals. Trump might want someone loyal who will go after his enemies, but that's likely to worry senators who think the FBI and Justice Department should be independent and not be used for a president's personal vendettas. Kash Patel thinks there is a secret group of government officials who don't like Trump and are trying to hurt his presidency. This conspiracy theory is dubbed as the deep state theory and is popular among some Republicans. Patel believes in this theory so strongly that he even wrote a book about it. Trump thinks Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters, is a roadmap for his next administration. In the book, Patel criticizes the so-called deep state and calls for a major shakeup of the FBI, including firing the top ranks. Patel has even pledged to make the so-called Diddy list and the infamous Epstein files public after taking office. The Diddy list contains names of public figures linked to rapper Sean Diddy Combs' parties, where sexual misconduct allegedly occurred. The Epstein files, on the other hand, relate to investigations into the financier Jeffrey Epstein's human trafficking and sexual blackmail rings. Now, the FBI director is responsible for leading a large workforce. This includes some 37,000 employees spread across 55 field offices in the United States. The director also oversees 350 satellite offices and more than 60 international locations, covering nearly 200 countries worldwide. Trump's critics are questioning whether Patel is qualified for this job, citing his lack of experience compared to past FBI directors. Some are even worried that Patel, known for his loyalty to Trump, might try to turn the FBI into a tool for partisan revenge. Ultimately, it's up to the Senate to decide whether Patel's nomination will be confirmed. Trump has also nominated Chad Chronister, a sheriff from Florida, to lead the Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA. Additionally, Pam Bondi, the former Attorney General of Florida, has been selected to head the Department of Justice. Now, the Department of Justice oversees both the DEA and the FBI. So Trump's nomination suggests he wants to surround himself with supporters who will carry out his vision. US President Joe Biden has issued a full and unconditional pardon to his son Hunter Biden. Hunter was set to face sentencing this month for 2 criminal cases.
After 7 hours.
One related to tax evasion and the other for buying a firearm. Joe Biden is the first sitting US president whose son is facing a criminal trial. President Biden believes his son was treated unfairly and targeted by his political opponents. President Biden pardoning his son is a 180-degree turn from his previous decision when Biden repeatedly said he would not use his executive authority to pardon his son or commute his sentence. Listen to what Biden had to say in June of this year.
With regard to the question regarding the family, I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know. And I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
They're going to bring you in.
Hunter Biden's pardon comes just days before his sentencing, which was set for December 12. But what led to this pardon? Hunter Biden was convicted of 2 main crimes. First, he lied about his addiction to illegal drugs on a form required to buy a firearm. This was seen as a serious offense, as federal laws are in place to prevent people with drug addictions from owning guns. Second, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes. During this time, he spent heavily on drugs, sex workers, and luxury items. The tax case carried a maximum sentence of 17 years in prison, while the gun charges were punishable by up to 25 years. US President-elect Donald Trump criticized the pardon and he called it an abuse of justice. The power of the US President to grant pardons has its roots in English law. In the past, the king could show mercy to anyone, and this authority was later adopted by the American colonies. Today, US presidents often use this power. But how common is it for presidents to pardon family members? It's not unheard of. In fact, several presidents have used this authority to pardon or commute the sentences of family members. For example, Donald Trump issued around 100 pardons and commutations in his final weeks in office in 2021. And one of those people he pardoned was Charles Kushner, the father of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Kushner was sentenced to 2 years in 2005 for tax evasion, illegal campaign donations, and witness tampering. Interestingly, Charles Kushner has just been appointed by Trump to serve as the US ambassador to France. The former president, Bill Clinton, also pardoned his half-brother, Roger, before the end of his second term. Roger Clinton Jr. was convicted on a cocaine-related charge in 1985. Now, experts believe that Hunter Biden's pardon could undermine the credibility of the US democratic system and the notion that the law applies equally to everyone. This also puts the US in a challenging position globally. The question now is, will this pardon set a dangerous precedent for future presidents? But before that, does it give Trump adequate precedent to pardon all those convicted for the January 6th riots on the US Capitol? That's all we have in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you next week with more raging issues. Until then, it's goodbye from all of us in the newsroom in Delhi. This is Mark Lynn signing off. Take care and stay safe. Namaskar.